Hello again, this is Charlie here. What we have here is a unique offering. We have a set of 9 official service manuals issued by Amtrak in the 1970s for the government of employees only. These are very rare. Okay, this is it. This is the Passenger Car Equipment Operation Handbook issued by Amtrak in the early to mid-1970s. It details all the equipment that Amtrak was operating in the early 70s. Don't forget, folks, this is the equipment that Amtrak took over from the railroads in 1971. This is not the new stuff here. These are all railroad heritage equipment taken over from the various railroad companies. If you were to get all the information that is included under this one cover under the separate railroads, you'd have to have about 20 different manuals here. This information is all included in one book. You've got diagrams here of all the various passenger cars, the dining cars, the diner lounges, the observation cars. You got a round end observation dome lounge car. I mean, that thing has been extinct for the last 20 years. Here it is. Amtrak actually operated this car in regular service on the Florida trains and other service in the 1970s. You got your cutaway diagrams here showing all the interior work of the Pullman cars built by the Pullman Standard Company, ACF and Bud. You've got fold-out diagrams showing the electrical systems, the plumbing systems, the trucks. You've got a several-page information section here on the EMD's E8 diesel-electric locomotive, of which Amtrak had tons of them back in those days. Shows the electrical systems, how they operated, the maintenance. This is chock full of stuff that you're just not going to get anywhere else. Like I say, this is not the Amfleet or Superliner. This is all railroad manufactured and owned equipment that was taken over by Amtrak in the early 1970s. Don't forget, when this was published, Amtrak was really only 5 or 6 years old at the time, and the equipment was falling apart. That's when they had to go to Congress to get an appropriation for new equipment, because Amtrak was in serious trouble when this manual was published. But this shows you why. Don't forget, these cars were built in the 1950s when Amtrak took them over. So they were already pushing like 20, 25 years old when they took over, and they were in sorry disrepair, especially ones they took over from Penn Central Conrail. So anyway, you've got tons and tons of information you're not going to find anywhere else in this beautiful, one-of-a-kind manual showing all the passenger cars and how to work on them from the early 1970s, issued by Amtrak. And this is it right here. Now, this is just one of 9 manuals that we have to offer here, just one of 9. The second one that I want to detail here is the Amtrak issued Northeast Corridor Region instructions. This is for employees only, sort of like an employee timetable. This was for the Northeast Corridor, which outlines the New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and Baltimore divisions operated by Amtrak, taken over from Conrail in the 1979. This was by congressional mandate. As you know, Penn Central went bankrupt. Conrail took it over, the Northeast Corridor, and Amtrak took ownership in the late 1970s. It goes into detail. You got your signal systems detailed here. All the stations along those divisions I mentioned in the Northeast Corridor are all outlined here. All the employee-only details here, showing the siding capacity, speed restrictions, various rules and regulations that the conductors and locomotive engineers had to follow here. You've also got wonderful diagrams, track diagrams of the various divisions in the Northeast Corridor, very detailed, shows you the stops, trackage, siding capacity. And we've got a unique diagram here of the famous zoo interlocking in Philadelphia, and as well as Arsenal, Penn, and Broad Street interlockings in the Philadelphia area here, outlined for you, detailed. Every track is shown. And you got all the other diagrams here for every single division in the Northeast Corridor. This is a one-of-a-kind, early 1970s edition, just after Amtrak took over the Northeast Corridor from the troubled Penn Central and Conrail. So that's part of this 9-set manual collection here. The rest, we really don't have time to go over too much, but as you can see here, we got a conductor's manual for Amtrak that was issued in the 1970s. Shows you all the details of the conductor's daily routine here, the reports, pictures of tickets, pictures and diagrams of the routes that they used to operate on. They showed them how to issue the tickets on board, accounting principles, safety rules. That's your conductor's manual. You got your rules of service for the onboard services employees. You got here the rules and instructions governing the onboard service employees right here also from the 70s. This is mainly from the 70s, folks. Service instructions for conventional equipment, you know, that's like Amfleet, Heritage, stuff like that. None of the new stuff like they got now. This is from the 1970s, don't forget. This is for manual here for the club car service employees. Shows how Amtrak expected them to do the service in the club cars. Gives you the diagram of the club cars they had in operation there, what the menus were, how Amtrak expected the service to be made. So it shows you the plate and how they wanted the employees to serve up a meal in the club car. Really interesting stuff. Another here rule for the general service employees working on board. Another rule book. Amtrak, that's one thing they were really good at, is rules. Look at all rules right here for the employees. My God, you have to have a PhD to remember all this. This is kind of special here. A manual of service instructions for the Amp Club cars. This was some of Amtrak's very first custom-made equipment that was delivered in 1976. This was published in 1976 for the Amp Clubs. This was a manual for the service employees, showing once again how Amtrak wanted the service to be rendered. It has diagrams of the place settings, the menus, accounting procedures for the employee in charge of the club car. So you got your snack menus here and everything. Don't forget, when Amtrak introduced this was all brand new stuff here, so they're really proud of this. You got your table settings here. It's kind of interesting the way they wanted everything done just right. Amtrak had some real standards back in those days. Alright folks, so don't forget, you get all nine of these beautiful, one-of-a-kind, rare manuals issued by Amtrak in the early 70s to mid-70s, including the Passenger Car Equipment Handbook. Details the operations of all the cars that Amtrak took over from the railroad companies in the 1970s, as well as the diesel locomotives, and the very, very rare Northeast Corridor Instruction Manual showing the operation of the Northeast Corridor from Boston to Washington, D.C., and all the other service manuals that Amtrak had issued once they took over the service. Don't forget, this was Amtrak in its early days. They were still learning. And so there was a rule for every phase of the operation. You've got everything right here for you. It gives you like an inside view of the way Amtrak was back in the early 1970s. Get your bids in now. We'll be waiting for you. We'll be back with some other good things soon. Thank you.